Okay, so I have my page set up, and you may have noticed it moving it around. So when we are drawing, we want to be able to navigate through our drawing. So this drawing right here, or this drawing area, it's what we call a design layer, and it's this infinite amount of space. So I could zoom out, 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 and really, like, you could draw on this one sheet, one layer, like all your information. And Vectorworks has multiple design layers. So not only do you have this one sheet, a layer of infinite amount of space, you have multiple. You can create multiple design layers. So I was zooming in and out. I was using my scroll wheel to do so. So all these computers at the school have the scroll wheel, so you can zoom in and out. If I hold shift and move the scroll wheel, that goes left and right. Or in this case, and some mouses might be set up differently, but using the scroll wheel, I can zoom in and out. Pressing shift while moving the scroll wheel up and down, I can move left and right. I can also, so that's zooming in and out. I can also use the zoom tool. So looking up in our basic tool palette, there's a little magnifying glass. And if I hover my cursor over that little zoom tool, you can see that a little dialog box pops up, and it said zoom tool, and in brackets it says a C, and then it tells you what that tool does. Okay, so I can either click on that cursor or on that little icon, or I can press the letter C, and that automatically takes me into my zoom tool. And I can, my cursor has now changed into a little magnifying glass. So there's two ways that this zoom tool works. In the default method or mode, it's a marquee mode. I can see my drawing or my mode menus up here, and I can see that my zoom tool is in a marquee mode. Vectorworks is very helpful. If you just hover over, it tells you what the name of the tool, what it does, and the shortcut in brackets. So if you ever have any questions, I've given you that shortcut list in that email. Look them over, but you can always just hover your cursor over and it will give you the information. There's also the help menu at the top. So in my marquee mode, I can just click and draw a rectangular marquee, and it's going to zoom into that area that I've indicated with that marquee. Okay, so you can try using that zoom tool and zooming in. We have nothing there, so it's kind of, you can use your page as a reference point. But again, I can use my scroll wheel to zoom in and out. There's also the interactive mode. So if I click on that icon for my zoom tool, it zooms in and out. I don't like this one as much, so I don't use it as much. But then in the interactive mode, moving your cursor up and down either zooms it in or out. Okay, so that's zooming in and out. Now, sometimes we want to move our sheet around. Remember, it's this infinite amount of space, but to move things, it's kind of what is called a pan. So there's this little hand tool, and if I hover my cursor over the hand tool, it gives it as an H, and I can select that pan tool, and it changes my cursor into a little hand. I then can click using that hand and move my page around. So if I'm zoomed in really closely and I need to move over, to the edge of my page, I can just pan. So this is the pan tool. I've selected it up in my basic tool palette, which is on the top left corner here, or I could press H. Now the thing with that pan tool is that it pans our object, or pans our drawing space as a function. But sometimes we want to pan our drawing space when we are in the midst of an operation. So say for instance, I was drawing a line and I want to move over. I can either press down my scroll wheel button, and in doing that, I get the temporarily activate the pan tool. And I still stay in the line tool that I'm creating. So if I went over right now and I selected my hand tool, it would stop drawing that line. So when I want to temporarily activate the pan tool, I press the hand and it keeps me in the operation that I'm in. So again, that's by pressing down the scroll wheel button. I can also press space bar and it temporarily enables the pan tool as well. Okay, so we can zoom in, zoom out. Sometimes we kind of lose where we're at. So there's also these set zooms up top. You can fit to page area right here. So if I zoom out, if I fit to page, it's going to fit to the border outline of my page that I've set up. I can also have objects somewhere else and say I want to select both of them. And there's also a fit to objects, which is next, and it zooms in around those objects selected. So we can zoom in, zoom out, use our scroll wheel. We can fit to page, which is at the top here, and see, even though I have those objects selected, taking me to the fit to page, this little icon here, or Command 4 is the shortcut, will take me to that page. Or selecting the multiple objects, I can go fit to objects, and that zooms into the objects. Okay, and so Command 4 is fit to page, Command 6 is fit to objects, and those icons are up here. Okay, so now there's also, we'll just leave it the way it is right now. Okay, so everybody knows how to zoom. What are different ways we can zoom? What's a way we can zoom in and out with the mouse? Scroll wheel. What's a way that we can zoom in and out with a tool? Zoom tool. Okay, a little magnifying glass on our basic tool palette. So zoom, in and out, scroll wheel, and then we can also use the zoom tool, which is the C key. And remember, there's two modes to that. So there's the marquee and the interactive mode. Try both of them out. Now we want to pan. This is more important, I guess. So there are multiple ways to pan. So what's one of them? Spacebar. And spacebar is going to temporarily enable the pan tool. What's another way? To tool, the pan tool, which is shortcut H. Okay, but that will take you into your pan tool and take you out of whatever operation you're in. One more. Spacebar. This one is not on the keyboard. On your mouse. Yeah.
You just hold it down and drag it.
Hold what down?
The scrolly thing.
Yeah. So you press your scroll wheel. You will use these often. But
Do you normally use like have a preference? Because I already found I have a preference.
Yeah.
But, like, is there other ones that are like better for other things?
well, a lot of it is your personal preference, right? Like it gives you options. I don't think
Makes no sense.
it makes no sense to use the pan tool as a tool because most of the time I'm using it, I want to move it when I'm in the midst of an operation. But it is there, right? You can do it. Okay. So those are ways of getting around our drawing area. Again, this is our drawing area. And you can see that this is the drawing area, but this is a whole pane. This is the whole drawing area pane. So at the top, it gives me, I can go, these are classes. We'll go over them later. It tells me what class I'm in. These are layers. These are design layer options, layer planes. We did go over these fit to page and fit to objects here. You can also zoom in by a specific value here. You can do 100%, 200%, or scale down to. This is the view that we're in, and we want to stay in top plan view. We will be going over it a lot more. And here are the mode menus for when we are in our different tools. So here's our basic tool palette. You can see that it's basic. These are mostly 2D tools. And then our more advanced tool sets are below, and these are more 3D tools that we'll get into. But you can click, these are the little icons. And then there's corresponding menus for each of those icons. Over here is our object info palette. We will be using this a lot for information about the objects that we've created, for modifying the objects that we've created, and our navigation. So like I was saying, we have design layers in Vectorworks. Right now we'll just be kind of sticking to the basics, but there's also sheet layers, and this is where all those layers and classes and sheets are organized. We can find it there. Okay, these are, like I said, these are palettes. So object info palette, navigation palette. If you can modify them and you can move. They are set up for allowing the most drawing space in your drawing window while still being able to see all the information that you need in each of the palettes. You can close those palettes though, and sometimes you will accidentally close them or open them. And there's my resource manager, I can close that. I can go up to window palettes, and I can see that the ones with the check mark are the palettes that I have open. So I closed my navigation palette, but I do want that, so I turned that back on and it placed it accordingly. I can grab that palette and I can move it and I can line it up there if I wanted to. But again, you can see that that shrinks my drawing area, and I want to try and keep my drawing area as big as possible. So I can grab the title of my box and I can place it on underneath my object info palette. I can see that it wants to lock it into underneath that object info palette because it highlights that line blue, and then I click there. I want to shrink it back down, and I want my object info palette bigger and my navigation smaller, so I can modify and play with those, adjust those palettes however I'd like.